How you guys doing? You notice that I'm like laying on the ground right now. Well, part of the reason is because I'm going to be showing you how to take action photos from your cell phone, and most of the time I use my camera at a very low angle to get a very dynamic, cool background photo, and that's the reason why I'm sort of sitting on the ground. But this doesn't look that good physically. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to take great photos with your cell phone, and you're going to be able to post them on Instagram and they're going to look awesome. So let's get started. We're going to be using the cell phone's selfie camera, not the back camera. We're going to be using the front camera so we can line up ourselves, and that's the mode. And we're also going to be using video mode, not the camera mode. So I'll explain. It's going to make sense in a minute when I show you how to do this.
All right, so this is how we're going to set up our camera. We're going to lean it back until we get the bottom of the frame just about equal with the ground right there. See how the ground is very low in the frame? So this gives you plenty of room for your body to be up here. And what we can do is we can do a test shot to see if you're right. So I'm just going to go stand back there. I'll leave the camera here. Oh, the camera won't balance. And I'm going to measure this to see if it's in the right framing where I want it. You see how the framing is just about, it can get my body within about 10 feet back. So that's basically set up right where we want it. I don't know what the angle is, but it's all about the framing. And so, since the camera has basically a wide view screen, you can see it will get a very wide picture as you're running by. So that's the first part of this equation, is just getting the camera set up right. All right, so the second thing that's most important in setting up a photo, especially off of, like I said, my little makeshift tripod, is composure and or composition. What is the background of your photo? What is the foreground? So you would be the foreground, and the background would be all the trees back here. So now this is not going to make a great photo, in my opinion, because of the busyness of the trees. Plus, there's a lot of shade, then light, then shade, then light. So I'm going to show you a photo of what this looks like with this busy background. So as you can see, the photo is not very good lighting wise. The photo just does not pop off the screen like I want it to. So we're going to go to a different location, and I'll show you how to sort of pick out a better area to do a photo of this kind, so where your photo looks really great and you get a nice sky background and the lighting is better. So the one thing I wanted to show you between the different angles, the higher angle and the lower angle, is with the lower angle you're able to get what I call like a floating shot, where if you can time it just right and you're running fast enough, both feet will be off the ground and you'll actually look like you're floating, and it'll be more of a dynamic photo rather than like one foot touching the ground and the other one off. You'll get more of just a great look overall. So when you look at the photo of the higher angle camera, because it's pointing down, it's not seeing that air gap between your feet, and it doesn't look as good to me as the lower angle. So hence that's why I use a lot of the lower angles I do when I do this kind of photography. One thing I wanted to mention also is that I normally shoot at the beach. It's very easy. It's very flat. There's hardly any trees. There's not a lot to work with. Normally, if this would be like a shot at the beach, just minus the trees, and all you would have is sky in your background. But today, I am doing it for people who don't have beaches, and you have maybe wooded areas with a lot of grass, maybe a field, a soccer field you can do it on, or just a recreation area that's a little bit less covered with trees. Like I said, trees can clutter up the photo. All right, so if we're shooting in the grass, sometimes you have the issue with the high grass. What we can do is we can flip the camera so the camera is actually on the top part. So now it's actually about 5 inches off the ground, and that should give you enough clearance to get a decent picture without all the grass in the way. So another thing is when you're doing this shot, you have to make sure you're lined up right, because you haven't got as much sideway latitude to make a mistake. So when you start lining up, line your body up like this and try to keep it a track of where your line is toward the camera. See, at about this distance, which is about 10 feet, I can still see where I am in the camera. So I'm going to walk backwards in a straight line so I don't get out of the camera shot. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the opposite angle, running toward the camera. The camera's right there.
So I'll show you what it looks like when we're running toward the camera. All right, so this is going to be a setup for jumping shots. All right, so we can see the camera, and depending on how good your eyes are, you can actually see yourself in the camera if you back up. So we're going to back up about, this is about 15 feet. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark our position with like a branch, this branch here, so I know how far. And I'm going to do some jumping, and I'll show you how what that freeze frame looks like. It may look kind of goofy, just depending if you're into that fun kind of thing where you like to have just an interesting looking photo. So let's take a couple jumping pictures. So now I'm watching the video back to see if I got a good shot here. A little tired from jumping up and down. You can see I had to turn up the exposure like one stop on the camera. If your camera has an adjustable stop, you brighten it just one stop. All right, so here comes the tricky part. My camera has a little freeze frame thing right there where you can just hit that button. It'll take freeze frames for your video. Some cameras you have to hit the power button and the home button to do that, just depending on what kind of camera it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to go back and forth and keep taking pictures of the jump to try to get it in the right, like that. So I took a couple pictures there. We'll back it up and I'll take a couple more. Try to time it so it's right in the middle of its high point like that. Hopefully that got a couple good ones in there. Take a couple more just in case. Let's see how we did. All right, so you can see this one, not so bad. It's got some good height there. It actually makes it look like I'm jumping a lot higher than I normally would. The exposure is a little blown out. You can kind of maybe fix that if you go home and do it in post. So what I want to do is I want to go put this on Instagram and post this photo so I can crop it. But I'm pretty happy with that one. So like I said, if you're sort of an Instagram person or a Snapchat person, we can frame that photo. We can shrink it back a little bit and make sure that it looks like we're jumping high. So I'm going to frame it a little bit on the high shot. And I got my tongue sticking out there like a goofball. I'm going to go ahead and post that to Instagram. So there we are, posted to Mr. John Swift on Instagram. Just a goofy photo for having a goofy day. And this is basically the same process you're going to use also for running. You're going to take those screenshots over and over to get the best running shot, like I said, and I can also show you how to do that in post when we go on the computer. So now I've loaded this video of me running at the beach on a program called a Movie Maker. There's a lot of free programs out there. This is like an editor, a video editor, which allows you to go frame by frame and pick out the exact shot of where you need to go. You can just go one frame at a time to get it exactly. Like I said, you get 30 shots per second, so you have a lot to choose from among those 30 shots. So as I said, I like to get shots of it where it looks like both feet are off the ground at the same time, more of a floating shot. So I would pick something more like this, where it's sort of floating off the ground, rather than something like this, which I don't think is a dynamic when your legs are compressed like that. But that's just a good example of what you can do with just a cell phone and a bottle of water and just a little camera to post screen. You don't need expensive cameras. You don't need you know, lights and everything. I think you just need a little practice, and you can get great photos. And remember, it's all in the framing. That framing is not so great because my head's cut off. That's why it takes practice. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you got some practical knowledge how to take great photos, action photos and jumping photos and running photos. So anyway, if you want to see more of my photos, I'll do a little montage at the end of this video so you can see some of the better pictures that have been taken at the right times of day with the right blue sky and the perfect backgrounds. So check them out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button. See you guys later.